Tonight I would like to comment on two agenda items, the first being video usage during oral communication periods. Our chamber believes there is value in the use of videos in augmenting what is being said by speakers. A couple of weeks ago, Rose Prowser, for instance, showed what the iron grill stanchions look like in front of NBC. We feel this was an example of a visual aid being used appropriately during a presentation. It helped make her remarks even more pertinent and relevant. But as beneficial as videos can be, we concur that they should not be used for electioneering purposes. The Planning Board has the luxury of visiting agenda item sites prior to their meetings, seeing firsthand what they will be deliberating on. If it wasn't important, they wouldn't make such field trips. Remarks alone during oral communication presentations deny you such visual advantages, and we feel that videos can therefore be helpful at times to foster better understanding if used appropriately.
So it's come to this. Over the years, this body has tweaked our right to address it. You've floated trial balloons claiming the need to reduce the overall length of council meetings as if to say that we, the public, who have always been constrained by various time limits, are the cause of this. Have any of you ever watched a replay of yourselves droning on because of some need on your part to speak ad nauseum on every subject? To the public here and at home, Agenda Item 13, to prohibit videotapes being used during oral communications, is simply another tool in the Council's arsenal to minimize the public's ability to air their grievances. The movement to change this ability picked up steam when Dr. Gordon's campaign spot was aired during the special election. Mr. Golonsky brought it up in the interest of restricting electioneering. This has now morphed into all videos, most of which are used to refresh the citizens' memories as to positions taken and votes cast by our elected officials, city staff, and council-appointed board members. What a horrifying way for someone to use their 6 to 7 minutes once a week. So why is it so overreaching a proposal? Because I suspect that our city attorney's office advised the council that if you grant us the right to show video clips of city business, and please do not insult us by saying that an election is not city business, then you do not have the right to pick and choose what you're willing to allow us to show. So now all videos must go, with the rationalization that problems involved with the tapes, quote, tend to delay the meetings and interfere with the accomplishment of the city's business. As Fred Prowser said, what a bunch of crap. So let's look at the resolution's actual wording. A resolution of the Council of the City of Burbank prohibiting the showing of videotapes by members of the public during oral communications at council meetings. In today's Daily News, Mr. Barlow was quoted as saying, "You have a First Amendment right to speak. You don't have a First Amendment right to use PowerPoint or videotape." This resolution doesn't say anything about PowerPoints at all. Is this Mr. Barlow's wishful thinking, or a cloaked attempt to eventually prohibit anything other than the spoken word? There's an overhead projector sitting right over there that Rose Prowser used to show a Bill Wiggins campaign flyer, which had the Los Angeles city skyline prominently placed on it. Is that now off limits to Rose, as well as the lady from the Rancho area who attended months of meetings with a transparency showing who to send letters to regarding the proposed LA sewer line? Now let's look at the members of the public. Is that just us, or does that include you as well? I mean, I wouldn't ask it if not for the fact that a sitting council member's use of a video to attack a member of the public, that member being me. In January, I spoke for a number of weeks against Mr. Vanderbort's attempt to convert Chandler Boulevard into 2 one-way streets. This council member sat mute the whole time, having already gone on the record as opposing that idea. Then in February, I spoke against the city staff's overreaching interim fence and hedge standards. Hardly an arguable assessment since you all reduced many of those when you got around to it. The next week, presuming again I would be present, what did we hear from this council member? Roll the tape. He replayed some of my comments, followed by a written statement in which he said that if Mr. O'Neill is planning a run for city council, he would do well not to use the word integrity in his campaign. He took up valuable city council meeting time while using a videotape to bolster his naked attempt to intimidate a member of the public. And for the record, this supposed campaign of mine currently exists only in the fertile imagination of this councilman, David Golonsky, Burbank's own poster child for city council term limits. So, will you pass this tonight? I'm as sure you will as I was the night you approved the Home Depot illegal alien daycare center against the wishes of some 60 speakers. To the voters here and at home, I'm here to remind you that you have the right to dump this sort of representation at the election early next year. You elected David Gordon, and the fear that instilled in the movers and shakers is the reason they will pass this restriction tonight. but for only members of the public? What should be good for the goose should be good for the Golonsky. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Please keep it down.
You have to ask yourself why. Why is the majority of this city council hell-bent on restricting the rights of Burbank voters and taxpayers from using the medium of videotape during oral communications at city council meetings? Surely one incident at which a campaign commercial was shown during oral communications, perhaps twice, can't be the sole reason behind this draconian measure. Don't give me the line that other cities have implemented the ban on videos, so should Burbank. Perhaps some of the citizens of Burbank have had it with the good old boy network in place and are ferreting out details of favors, deals, inducements to developers, others, perhaps nonprofits in the city, that on face value are questionable. In my opinion, perhaps those on the city council in favor of this ban really want to draw the curtain on the truth, which is being unfolded, sometimes with the help of videos, almost on a daily basis, on how dirty, how unseemly, how possibly corrupt those very few in power really are. They are seeking the quickest way that their minds work. Aha, let's ban videos from city council. So you see, what's really motivating this whole episode of seeking to ban videos from oral communications is fear. Fear that the power base they have built up over these years, with its tentacles into the pockets of developers and others, perhaps the AMC theaters who were doing supposedly a poor job after 9/11, came to the sweet city of Burbank and said, we can't hardly afford to build that parking garage we promised you. Can't you help our little corporation out? We've got to sell that land that we promised to build a parking lot on. And yes, there's a parking lot going there, Mr. Vanderboort, but how many spaces are for the public? Less than 300. How many people, if the AMCs were packed, would need to be parked in a convenient location to that theater? Probably 1,200 parking spaces, not some high-priced condominiums. But that power base is eroding, and as the light of truth, sometimes enabled by videotapes from the public, is coming under scrutiny, that old adage, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Oh, to have had a videotape of Mayor Campbell when the police were called. Not once, but is it twice now? Based on fear that the power base that they have coddled, the nonprofits, to enable favors to be doled out to those that they deem worthy could be in jeopardy. Really, come clean, Mr. Golonsky, Ms. Ramos, Mr. Mayor. Is it fear that you're reacting to from staff, who sometimes are shown to be in the wrong in some of their decisions regarding our city, sometimes illustrated by these videotapes that the public has presented? I would expect this ban from a dictatorship, but that really seems the way the city is going. One only has to look closely at the proposals from your hand-picked Charter Review Committee that wants council members to be appointed if the council members want to appoint a successor if the city council member loses his seat or the seat becomes vacant, not have the citizens vote to elect a successor. And they want to appoint a city clerk and treasurer instead of having citizens voting to elect these positions. You can run from the truth, but you can't hide from it. Don't infringe upon the rights of the citizens of what you have called the media capital of the United States. I can almost hear the videotapes in the vaults of Disney and Warner Brothers crying for their brothers and sisters, the videotapes of the public, that you are banning in such a cowardly manner. Shame on you. And when you really look at this resolution, you surely could have come up with some better lies than what you've done. Council meetings, confusion on the part of viewers watching the council videotapes. See on the bottom, that's called a super in video language. You could put up live or tape provided by speaker. That's a very simple solution, but no, you in your inestimable wisdom couldn't figure that out. And you have to qualify in Measure C. Although the city of Burbank is committed to open and public meetings, the videotapes don't advance that goal. It's a bunch of crap.
Wow, that's
Now, before I run out of time, I want to hit on the oral communications and the videotapes. I love this statement. Ralph M. Brown Act gives the public the right to speak to their elected representatives, not the right to play videotapes. Let me ask you something. Do we have the capability to play videotapes? I think we do. Who paid for that capability? It was the taxpayers, right? Actually, I think that comes through that little assessment we pay on our charter television cable access. I think that's what you've used for that equipment. It's interesting to me because while the Ralph M. Brown Act obviously wouldn't require the playing of videotapes, because everywhere doesn't have the capacity or the capability to play videotapes, we do. So if we have the capability, we have the capacity, and it was even proven by Ms. Georgino tonight when the meeting started. I could swear I saw videotape playing as she spoke. A show and tell. Nothing wrong with that, but there's nothing wrong with the public doing it either. So let me ask you something. Should the public be limited only to speaking? Wouldn't we be able to do that even if we didn't have a PA system? I know I could speak loud enough to be heard in the whole room.
Thank you, Mr. Paroli. Next speaker is Rose Krauser, followed by Mr. O'Neill, and then followed by Esther Espinoza.
History has shown us over and over again that the greater the government's oppression of the common man, the greater the emergence of truth. It has been my observation in recent years that this City Council makes more and more decisions apparently based in fear. Fear that the legislature will require a different deal than we can make with AT&T on our own. Fear that if we put the purchase of a building on the agenda and wait the week, we might not be able to get it through without public scrutiny. Fear that if we allow the public to show a videotape during a meeting, we won't be happy with its content. And so, in my observation, you have indeed taken to instituting more and more controls on the people in order to deal with your own fears. I think that it is an insult to our public information production staff to suggest that they are not capable of pushing a button or two to roll the tape, as it were, or to control the volume of a video. Perhaps of even greater concern, though, is that you don't want the people to review the upcoming changes to the development agreement and the good Lord only knows what else. Please don't use the argument that it somehow contributes to the length of a meeting. Your staff controls the agenda. I recently sat in a charter review meeting where the assistant city manager assured that committee that he would control the items on the agenda to facilitate a short agenda meeting so as to emphasize their project. Videotapes are not the issue in that case. The agenda is the issue.
The other thing is this use of videos during oral communications. This is ludicrous that you're putting this on the ballot or on the agenda to vote on that. And the things that you say here is that you know, the council recognizes the use of video tapes raises serious legal issues involving, among other things, slander. I could get up here and make slanderous remarks. It's my understanding that's protected speech. So what's the difference if I come up here and say something slanderous or if I roll a tape and it says something slanderous? Invasion of privacy? I can't walk in your house and take videos of you inside your house or in private property, but if you're walking down the street and Channel 7 is doing a news show and you're walking around in the background, you've relinquished your privacy. You're out in a public place. So if somebody has a videotape and they've taken it out in a public place and show it on the screen here, what's the deal about that? I mean, it's, you know, copyright infringement. I could play a song or I could show a part of a movie if it was making a point relative to city business, and it's not for sale. This is part of information. It's part of this government body here, and you can say, you know, I can use copyrighted material if it's in this context at public speaking here. You're talking about these more silly things here, getting the tape to start at the point desired. If it's so important to me to have my tape start at a certain point, I'll get a blank tape and I will put those little, you know, colored bars on there with the beepy noise, and then it'll be ready to start when they're ready to start it. If I give in the middle of a council meeting, I want to show a minute from the middle of one of your meetings, well, that's going to be a little tough for them to do in there. But then if I care that much, I will make a separate videotape with that information on there. Poor quality? I'm not going to make my point if I have a poor quality tape. The better the quality of the tape, the better the point, better chance I'll have at making my point. Tapes are running longer than a lot of speaking time. We've had speakers even here tonight that we're trying to make statements as they're walking away from the podium here and get a couple extra 4 or 5 seconds in. If the tape runs over, they hear the beep in there. They can stop the tape right then and there. So these are all silly excuses. It makes no sense. If I wanted to make a presentation, I could do it on videotape, and if I didn't like it, I could do it over, and I could do it over till I get it polished, till I get it right. And if I wanted to run exactly 4 minutes, I can stop it at 4 minutes. I can control that. So these are just crazy ideas. Don't vote for this.
Thank you, Mr. Rauschenbach.
I'm speaking on agenda item 13, using videos during oral communications. I think this agenda item is outrageous. Is it simply on the agenda because Dr. Gordon showed a 30-second campaign tape at a city council meeting months ago? Big deal. I won't get into the free speech issue. However, the copyright issue the city attorney refers to in his memo as an attachment to the agenda item is most intriguing. He's concerned with copyright issues when sections of previously taped city council meetings are shown by speakers during oral communications. These tapes are used as visual aids to assist the speaker's presentation. I'm sure there's not a big demand for bootlegged copies of Burbank City Council meetings. Taped city council meetings are simply public record. That should mean anyone can access and use it. I don't believe these meetings create a copyright issue. So please vote no on this ridiculous item, and I would like your comments. Thank you.
Lady's right that this videos makes the meetings more interesting. What is the reason? Dictator Todd Campbell is making decisions without bringing it over to the council already. Why do we have it here? Just have dictator Todd Campbell make that decision for all of us. This
How does
is
this relate to the
depriving.
agenda item?
That's what it is.
Mr. Barton,
This is,
relate
okay,
it back to the
wait. I want you to go back.
Yeah, it's
the
agenda
same
item
thing.
orals.
The videos is the same thing, okay? It's depriving people's rights, okay? It's the same thing. So then, this is
the agenda item.
what are you doing now?
Just stick to the agenda item. That's all
Just
I'm
stick to
asking.
the agenda. I want to stick. This is another attempt to deprive people from their right to speak. That's what it is. And also, you're not fooling anybody, okay? For years, everything was okay to run those videos, okay? And all of a sudden, after we see Gordon's tapes in the campaign, all of a sudden, all these excuses come printed in the agenda. All these reasons. Having these videos is what makes the city of Burbank great. It's just a form of freedom of speech. That's all it is. Now, the fact that it's that looks like a commercial, or it is a commercial, whatever, it's just a form of freedom of speech. And to say anything different is just being completely ignorant about what really freedom of speech is all about.
City Council in 1999 recognized that the city was the center of the media industry and formally acted to allow the use of videotapes during oral communications. But then something happened to your opinion about what was good and what was not. Wow! Do you realize what you're doing? Do you realize what you're doing? You take the beginning of your statements before, and you talk about the fact that the City Council recognized that the city was the center of the media industry. Well, here's a perfect example of a lousy operation that you're doing right now. I feel very sorry that you've taken this particular tack.
I won't say very much because everybody already said it very well. And we the people don't want you to pass this resolution. Thank you.
In 1999, the council acted to allow the use of videotapes during orals. There must have been a good reason for the council at that time to do that. If someone, for example, says they are for something, and someone else or the council says that person never said they were for that particular item, addressing the council doesn't prove that point. Only a roll tape. It's no secret there has been a great deal of animosity toward Dr. Gordon by various members of the council. I just wonder if a Bill Wiggins supporter showed a campaign tape just once or twice, would this even be on the agenda? You can say this hasn't have anything to do with it, but your status quo has been shaken, and it's not comforting. With all the problems facing Burbank, and yes, Burbank is a lot better than the city of LA. I work in LA. I know how bad it can be. But we do have problems, traffic, infrastructure, etc. With all the problems facing our city, I can think of better ways to spend the council's time, and it's not on videotapes. Thank you.
What can I say? One picture is worth 1,000 words. Many things that are shown are best said by showing these videos. Also, I think this is a ploy to shut the public up, as many times these videos go back to previous meetings to be able to show what a council person said after they denied saying something or talked against something. It is a permanent public record. Lots of things that are brought up by the public that even you as a council do not know about, and you have to ask staff if this is true or if this is going on. The public is all well aware that if it were up to some council members, they would do away with orals altogether to shut the public up, and they would hand out muzzles to everyone as they entered the council chamber.